Greetings and welcome to my next Godot tutorial. This tutorial is about putting 2D elements that match the space in a 3D world. And so the usefulness of this technique is, for example, if you have units on a tactical game and you have like the unit name and health meter, which is what I use for in Sentinels of Ashal, or if you have a just a name tag. Another useful use for this technique is to actually have like text bubble that can move away if you're like in an RPG and you don't want it to be the full screen or half screen bottom text bubble. You just want like text bubble like shopkeepers or something talking to you, and you can walk away from it and this keeps the position but it doesn't lose the different sizes. One of the problems with using 3D sprites is if you're using unless you're using an orthographic camera, the further away you get, the smaller it will be, and that makes it where it's very difficult to read. And also text, you'd have to use viewports and some other difficult items to make the text look well. This technique makes it where it's the same size all the time. You don't have to worry about sizing it, and all you have to worry about is positioning it. So without further ado, let's just hop right in and talk about it. What I have set up here is a very simple scene. It just has a spatial, that's the world, a quad that I named floor and just put a green color on it, and an animation player, camera, and directional light. The animation player currently is just moving the camera around, as you can see, and that's all it's doing. If you don't know how to do that, there's plenty of Godot tutorials, and the instructions on the docs are very straightforward on how to do that, so I'm not going to go over how to do that, but basically that's just to show what the camera looks like. And then I have a rock, which this is actually a character from my new game that's going to be coming out soon, probably, well, not very soon, but anyway, a new game that's coming out called Rock, Paper, Scissors Tactics. I'll be looking out for that. It'll be fun. I'll be advertising that soon. But anyway, so it's just a simple rock, and it's a kinematic body, but that's not really important, and that's the mesh. So if we go ahead and play the scene right now, this is what it looks like. And so what I want to do is I want to have a tag over the rock that says its name, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's just hop right in. The first thing we need to do is actually have the tag element. So I'm going to add a child node, and I'm going to add a texture frame, and I'm going to load this little image that I have, this little tag bubble thing that I have. I'm going to go ahead and load that up. Now, if you notice, I'm using a 2D inside as a child of a 3D element. I think it's really cool that Godot allows that. For example, if this unit was like a spatial or something like that, and it could be instanced, it's really nice to have this always attached to it, even though it's a child of a 3D element. I think that's really cool, and that's just one of the things that I think is unique about Godot. But anyway, so this 2D element, whenever I click on it, it brings me to 2D. If I go back to 3D, it goes back to 3D. But let's get back into 2D. So what I want to do is add a label to this. Labels how we add text in Godot, and you just click right here the name. So let's call it Bob the Rock, because that's who he is. He's Bob the Rock. Alright, move it. Now you can't see that very well, so let's make it unwhite. Boom. There we go. So right now we have, as a child of rock, we have a texture frame. We're going to name this name tag. And the name tag is Bob the Rock. Okay? Real simple. So we play it, we have the name tag, but it's right here. Now, we think we could, like, you would be able to move it somewhere right here, and it'll still be there, but that's just in the viewport. It's not really associated to the rock at all. It's just that same location on the viewport. And that's not what we're trying to get. What we want is the rock to, the tag to follow with the rock. Well, what we need to do that is make a script. So right here, do add script, and I'm going to call this tag. Doesn't matter what I call it. And it's going to be a child of the kinematic body. or it's going to be type kinematic body. That doesn't really matter as long as it's spatial. If it could be kinematic body, it could be spatial, it could be static body. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's a type spatial where you can get translation. So what we need to do is we need to get first of all, we need to get the position of the item. So that's pretty easy to do. So we're just going to do var position equals get translation. Alright, so that's the position of the rock. Alright, now the next thing we need to know where it is the camera. So var cam equals get tree. This is the way I like to get the active camera. And instead of having to like find, I could potentially get parent and get node camera, but this gets from the root the active camera, and that's the way I prefer to do it, and that's how I do it. But you can however you get the camera is fine. All right. So we have the camera and we have the position, and that's really all the things that we need to get. The next thing we need to do is we need to get the location on the screen that the rock is, and that location on the screen changes. So, but we'll go ahead and get the location of the rock. So we'll just call it screen position or screen location. So var screen position. And so what we can do here is we use a tool from a function from the camera, which is called unproject position, and that takes a vector 3D world. It takes a vector 3D world point and then turns it into a 2D camera position, and that's very helpful. So all we have to do is do position. All right, so now we have the screen position, and the last thing we need to do is actually set the location of our name tag. So we'll do var, get node name tag, set position. Yeah, set position is a 2D or a canvas item 2D function, and we can do screen position. All right, so this right here will position the tag right when we open the game. But we have a problem. You see, it basically is no different than just moving it one time. That's because the camera's moving, so the screen position of the rock changes. So we need a way to make it where this moves to the position on the camera when the camera moves. The way we do that is by adding a fixed process, and we make sure that it happens every single frame. So what we do here is set fixed process to true. And then what this does is when you set fixed process to true, it tells this item to look for this function. Fixed process, it looks for that function. So now every single frame, it's going to run this function. So all we gotta do is grab all this stuff, put it here. All right, and let's see how that looks. So that's much better, but we can see there's another small problem. The corner is the 0, 0 position of this 2D item. So it's sitting that 0, 0 position of this 2D item exactly at the 0, 0, 0 position of the root position of the rock. And we don't want that. We want it to be above its head, because right there it's not where it makes sense to be a text bubble. Again, all we have to do here is make this a vector 2. Vector 2. And screen position, we're going to keep the same X. If I can get it right. And then screen position dot Y. And now what we want to do is make it minus, because that's going to go up. And then I know that the position 80 works pretty well. I just know that from doing this, but you can adjust this to based on, you could actually grab the height of the item and that sort of thing if you needed to, but for simplicity's sake I just put it in like that. Now as you can see, it sits there and floats, and it doesn't leave the screen at all, and it positions pretty well. So that's a really simple way of making a 2D element sit inside of a 3D inside of a 3D world, or at least position itself with very few hiccups and almost no, or very, very little impact on performance. So that's the tutorial. That's really simple to do. Hopefully you guys can come up with unique ways of using this. If you like this tutorial, please be sure to subscribe and check out my my game that's currently on itch.io right now. It's on free download. You can test it out. It actually uses this technique for the meters. It's called Sentinels of a Shawl. And anyway, so I'd love to hear what you think. Leave some comments in the leave some feedback in the comments section. And until next time, thank you very much.